Alright, hi guys. Let's continue the review for the exam by looking at, let's look at a couple more problems here. Let's look at number 8, we left off right there, being able to simplify polynomial functions through division. Notice that you have the denominator there is x. What they really want you to do here is picture this as being three terms, 1, 2, let's get the second one in here, and then 3. Focus on that red one there, because we're going to come back to that one a little bit later. So you need to divide each one of those three terms by x. So what happens there is that it gets 1 power less because you're going to be dividing and dropping it down a power. So our final answer here, we're going to have 4x cubed y divided by x. The 4 is not going to change. But however, when you take x to the third and divide it by x to the first, subtract those powers. So we have x squared, and then we have the y that's left over. Move on to the next term in blue there. 9, nothing happens. X squared divided by x, there's x, and then y still left over there. Now what happens here is something that you're going to have to pay attention to on the exam day. It's very simple here to think that when you have x divided by x, it cancels out, so you don't even bother writing anything in there. Well, actually there is something in there. What we have to put in there is when x divided by x here takes place, that we have to say it's equal to 1. Just like if I were to ask you 7 divided by 7, isn't that 1? 12 divided by 12, isn't that 1? X divided by x, that is 1. So make sure you're putting 1 in there when you're doing these problems. Now looking at the next problem. This one we're getting back to probability here for the next two problems, for 9 and 10. So suppose we have an experiment here consisting of spinning a spinner. We have the results there. Find the experimental probability that it does not land on green. Okay? So on these ones here, what trips students up every year is the fact that this problem is asking us to find the probability that it does not land on green. And so what happens in a lot of cases, they think the question is asking what's the probability it lands on green, so they end up with the 12 on top. You really don't want to do that. Your first move here, take all of those numbers, add them up. No matter what those numbers are. Go ahead and add them up, because we've got to figure out what this is out of here. So 12, 4, 5, that's 9, so 12 and 9, we're looking at 21 there. Probability it does not land on green means that we basically just ignore the green here. And we just add up the red and the purple, which makes a total of 9, right? So the chances it does not land on green is 9 out of 21, which we're going to want to get that fraction in simplest form. So what they mean by that is just reduce your fraction. Think here we can divide both of these things by 3. Key to reducing, make sure you're dividing by the same numbers here. Gotta be the same, can't be different numbers. So 9 divided by 3, there's 3. 21 divided by 3, there's 7. There's our answer. 3 sevenths. Next, suppose we're rolling 1 cube. What's the probability the number is not a 3? Another not problem here. So think about it from this perspective. If we want one to not be 3, how many numbers would we like to have? So there we go. Out of all these 6 cubes here, how many are not a 3? That's it right there. So that means we have 5 cubes out of 6 that are not a 3. Go ahead and write that in there as a percent. 5 out of 6, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that's 83%. How can you correct me if I'm wrong? I'm in this video. We can't interact right now. Just tell me in class. Alright, number 11, another probability question. Suppose a bag contains 10 black ribbons and 9 green ribbons. Lila's selecting a ribbon at random, and Jessica picks one from the remaining ribbons. That's going to be important later on. Remaining ribbons. What's the probability that Lila selects a black ribbon, Jessica selects a green ribbon? So, let's split this up right here. And. Focus on this here first. Let's try and find the probability that Lila's going to select a black ribbon out of this bag, since she is picking first. So how many ribbons does the bag have? 10 black ones, 9 green ones, so we have a total here of 20 ribbons, right? So those 20 ribbons Doesn't matter which black one Lila gets, she just wants a black one, right? So the odds of her getting 1 is 11 out of 20. Next, let's figure out what Jessica's probability is. Selecting a green ribbon. Well, her getting a green ribbon isn't really affected by what Lila does. She's looking to get black ribbon. So there's still going to be 9 green ribbons no matter what Lila does. Well, if Lila gets a black one, of course, in the bag. But this is the key part right here, that remaining ribbon stuff. When you're taking something in from what's remaining out of the bag, it means we're 1 ribbon less, because Lila, whether she got a black one or a green one, there's still 1 less. So now there's 19 ribbons there. And we talked about this back when we were dealing with the unit, and always means in probability multiplying those two probabilities together. And always means multiply. Or would always mean add. So because this is an and problem, we're going to add the multiply those together. So 11 times 9 gives us 99. 20 times 19. I believe that's going to be, what, 380. Now, can this fraction be reduced? So an easy way to check would be taking the 99, dividing it by the 380, and using that really cool math fraction trick. What's that tell us? It means that the fraction couldn't be reduced. So yeah, our answer gets to stay just like this. And that's the answer we'd be looking for. Alright, so number 12. This one you're going to have to really heavily rely on the calculator here, especially for the portion that asks for the standard deviation of the data. Mean you might not need to rely on it so much, because mean just means average, right? We saw that earlier, right back here, where mean meant that we're just finding the average of all the numbers. But you can still make the calculator do this work. Here's how it goes. With the calculator, you're going to want to press the stat button right here, right underneath the delete button. Then you're going to need to edit a list. So right when you hit the stat button, all you really have to press here is enter. You may notice that you might have numbers in there from previous students putting in stuff. Get rid of it quickly by just hitting delete multiple times until your list is gone. Now, go ahead and enter your data here of 50406. 50406. Next, press the stat button again and go over to the calculate menu. From there, you want the very first one that's there, one variable stats. Hit enter. You might get this menu here, you might not, but just keep on hitting enter until it starts to spit out some data. There we go. So what we're looking at here is the data from the item from the numbers that we put in here. The most important information here that you want are 2 numbers here. This right here, the very top number, was the mean. This number right down here is the standard deviation. So there we go. We can write those numbers in there. The mean right here was 3. Standard deviation, just round out the 2 decimal places, 2.53. Alright, so let's finish the video with number 13 and 14. When they want you to add these up, it's very simple. Combine like terms. It's about as simple as I can make it here. So when you combine like terms, do not change the power. So when you're looking at this right here, 5a to the 5th, we can combine that 5a to the 5th to this 1a to the 5th right there, giving us 6a to the 5th. Now that we've combined those together, move on to the next biggest power. And that's what we're talking about, next biggest power, because we want it in standard form. So negative 1a to the 4th and 3a to the 4th. Negative 1 plus 3 would give us 2, giving us 2a, keep the power to the 4th. Use those, look at what's left, minus 1. Done. Now number 14, product. What they want you to do here is to take this term that's outside the parentheses here and use distributive property to multiply it by this term here as well as this term right here. And when you do the distributive property here with that one and that one, just take it one number and one letter at a time. So 8 times 2, that's 16. C to the 6th, C to the 5th. Now we add those powers up. Multiplication, you add the powers together. Just like with division earlier, we subtracted the powers. So C to the 6th, C to the 5th, that makes C to the 11th. D to the 4th, D to the 5th, that makes D to the 9th. Now we move on to the purple times the green there, times those two terms. So 8 times, well, there's 1 right there, so that makes 8. C to the 6th, C to the 2nd, that makes C to the 10th. D to the 4th, D to the 4th, D to the 8th. There we go. Success.